the media, he mentioned that how this issue will be resolved, assured that indeed this issue will be resolved and that those security agencies who are not able to vote today will definitely get the opportunity to do so. But Erastus Asare Donkor, if you can hear me now, bring us up to speed on the situation on the areas that you visited today regarding the special voting.
Your names on the main register, and so come December 7th, many of them are likely to vote there. There are others who feel that due to their duty posts and where they are, they cannot vote on that particular day. So some of them, they say, will be disenfranchised.
Well, so but this explanation, did it sit well with those who could not find their names in the special voters list? Were they assured enough that they will still get the opportunity and that they will not be disenfranchised?
Well, there are some who were not visibly not happy with that because they feel that they followed the necessary protocols to send their list to the EC, and so they do not understand why their names could not be found in the register. Some of them, security officials who claim that their duties assigned to them, they will not be available and they cannot go back to their original voting centers to vote. And so clearly they are disenfranchised. They cannot vote on election day. So there were people who were not too happy with that situation.
Of course, the wearing of nose masks. Elsewhere, we've had people being turned away to go get their face masks before being allowed to vote. Do we have situations like that in the areas that you visited?
Well, no, but the EC was very strict in all the centers that we went. We went to Mencia North and South, Aswate, Oforiko, Kwame. The EC in all these areas was very, very strict on the COVID-19 protocol. There were situations where people were asked to put on their nose mask. I saw one particular person who was wearing a nose mask that was branded in a political color. And so he decided not to wear it because he felt it was not allowed at the station. So they asked him to find another one and wear it, wash his hands before he can go through the protocol. So I must say that the COVID-19 protocol, social distancing, those mask wearing, and even sanitizers were given to people after voting to sanitize their hands before they left the scene. So yes, it was strictly enforced in all the areas we visited.
Thankfully, you've been interacting with some residents in the areas that you visited. We can listen to some of them.
Seals that were fixed on the ballot box, and then we submitted to the Amri.
Tell us about what happened the whole of today in the Swami constituency. How many people were being expected to vote? How many voted as of today? So voting has ended and the processes for the party agents to certify and sign the statement of poll has ended. They've added their seal to the box at the moment. And here behind me, the Swami District Police, they've handed over the boxes. I'm here with the Swami District Director for the Electoral Commission, Mr. Seth Mensah. Mr. Mensah, tell us, what is to happen right now that voting has ended, the boxes have been sealed?
Yes, so voting ended. We've brought the ballot boxes to the police Amri. To be there until 7th December, when it will be retrieved to the collation center and counted. That is where it will be counted. So for now, it will be kept at the police Amri until 7th December. Yeah.
Take me through the process. Right after voting ended, take me through what the party agents were doing over there before the boxes were brought here.
Oh yeah, so when the voting ended, the statement of poll, there are some areas that you need to fill. So we filled those portions of the form. The party agents also affix their seals to the ballot boxes. By law, they may choose to affix their seals to the ballot boxes. So that was what they were doing. So they took the serial numbers of the various seals that were affixed on the ballot box, and then we submitted to the Amri.
Tell us about what happened the whole of today in the Swami constituency. How many people were being expected to vote? How many voted as of today?
Yes, we were expecting 385 people to vote, and then 354 voted. So that is what happened. 385 expected, and 354 voted.
Concerning challenges with people not finding their names in the register, what can you say?
Yes, there were situations where people came, they were actually not registered voters in the constituency, as in Swami. So we directed them to their various centers to cast their votes. So that is what happened. We didn't really have much of a challenge here at Swami. Yeah.
Any lessons to be learned from the special voting today?
Oh yes, I mean, we've done this over, and we learned from experiences and all that. So we will take that experience into 7 December and whatever that we are supposed to do. We make sure that we make sure we give Ghanaians an incontrovertible elections, and elections that cannot be, I mean, it will be very free and fair. And that's what the Electoral Commission will do on 7 December.
Many thanks for your time. Mr. Seth Mensah is the Swami District Director for the Electoral Commission. You heard him there. But many of the party agents who came in here to witness the event are happy with what happened so far. Let me speak with you. Which party do you represent?
I represent MPP.
Now tell me, what is your reaction? How do you see the whole process today?
Oh, the whole process is so nice. It's so beautiful. Everything is normal. There's no problems. There's no fighting, no casualty, everything. I recommend EC. He have done well. He have done well. Truly, he have done well. Of course.
Everything so nice, everything so beautiful. Of course, we are live on Joy 99.7 FM as well. On DSTV channel is 421, Go TV channel 144. This is your election headquarters, made possible by Petrosol, clean fuel, full quantity, and of course, Cowbell Coffee. Voter turnout has been a main issue for many, at least from the areas that we've been monitoring. You've heard from Ayawaso West Wogon. Out of the 1,225 voters, we had 1,000 of them voting or turning up to vote. Well, we're bringing you the figures from all the regions. Like we said, we are covered everywhere. But let's now bring in some of the officials. We will be speaking to the Electoral Commission. But we'll start off from Kodeo.
In fact, we also joined, thankfully, by the Director of Electoral Services at the Electoral Commission, Dr. Siribo Kweku. And also joining us rightly is Rodosei with the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers. There has been a few issues, obviously, today that had come up. And as I say, this is special voting, but it offers your EC such a good opportunity to sort of test your own systems in readiness for elections. First time we are having in general elections in the context of a pandemic. And so obviously it raises all manner of questions that we need to answer ahead of December 7th. Let me start first with the Dr. Siribo Kweku with the Electoral Commission, who is joining us right now. Dr. Kweku, thank you for your time here on your election headquarters. Let me ask you, give me first your EC's assessment of how today had gone for you. 109,000, it's quite a number, but nothing compared to 17 million that we expect may vote on December 7th. How did it go?
Thank you very much. I want to say that glory be to God. We went through the exercise. I today visited about 9 centers in Central Region as monitoring. And I would say that wherever I went, my first attraction is the BVD, because this is the first time we are using it for an election. And with the exception of Kasua, I would say where 2 people had to be verified through the official. Then 2 other places, there are 1-1. All the other voters went through the fingerprint verification. There was no manual verification today. And I'm happy that assurance there that the new BVD is very efficient. Again, all the places that I visited, you could see the camaraderie between the agents. If you go there and you stand by and look at them, there's total understanding between the agents. They have a chart, they do everything. When I go, I will ask them questions, and everybody confirms that they're doing a successful activity. Then when it comes to the COVID protocols, you see that all those who I saw there were in a mask. The temperatures were given, including myself. My temperature was taken today for about 9 times. Then they all washed their hands through the bronco bucket. When they were verified to, they were sanitized. The hands were sanitized. So, in summary, based on what the agents told me and what I saw myself, I'm happy that the exercise has been a very successful activity.
Let's start with the COVID. One of the key issues that came up early today was people showing up at the polling centers to cast their ballots without face masks and being asked to go turn away and come back with a face mask, or in essence, they would issues about the ability to cast a ballot without it will arise. What is the directive from the EC headquarters to the EC officers at polling stations across the country on this matter? Have they been instructed to turn away those who come to the polling stations without face masks?
No, it is against law for you to go out without a mask. So the instruction is that if you go there without a mask, you should be asked to go and put on a mask before you.
Okay, but what about, because you can't also disenfranchise a person, right? I mean, what about the person who can genuinely afford or have a face mask? Does that mean that the person can't vote?
I feel uncomfortable when the media raise these issues. Are we asking people not to respect the law? Are we asking people not to observe the COVID protocols? So the people should be allowed to go to the centers without observing protocols. And you are the very people who always come out and say that we went to and the people are not observing the protocol. Please, the instruction is that if you don't have the mask, don't go to the center. We will not handle you. Okay.
Now, on that point, and I agree with you 100%. Go to the polling center with a face mask. You have to, because we all know we are in a pandemic situation. There is an executive instrument. I agree with you. But I'm asking this question in anticipation of what might happen on December 7th. This is why. This is special voting. And special voting are for people who you should expect should either afford or must have a face mask. They shouldn't have any problem accessing it. Even some of them have challenges today. What about that grandmother in a village who can't afford a face mask, hasn't got one, and genuinely doesn't have one, not because he doesn't want to wear it? What happens to that person?
My brother, the law did not discriminate against the levels of income. The law says that when you are stepping out, being in a mask. So our fiat is that whoever comes to the center should be in a mask. There are a lot of places which, when you go, it will be pasted, no mask, no entry. So polling stations are no mask, no entry. We are not going to justify any grounds that somebody that can afford whatever. In that case, then we should change the law. But as the law is, you step out only when you are masked, and we will insist on that.
Mr. Siriboe, Dr. Siriboe, I know you've been doing EC for a long time. So let me ask you this. And this is also in the interest of getting this right, because there are laws that are competing here. How do you balance that law, the executive instrument, against the constitutional right to vote?
You should always know that right go with responsibilities. Where you are right and is where somebody's right starts. You are supposed to protect yourself and protect me. If you have the right to vote, that right should be exercised responsibly. And that includes putting on mask.
Stay with me, Dr. Siriboe. Rhoda Osei, what's your take on this? I know you've deployed people to monitor the elections today from CODEO. Give me your observation of this COVID protocol and what should happen. If some have suggested that the state should possibly take up the responsibility, seeing what has happened today, to make masks available at polling centers for those who genuinely cannot afford or do not have face masks to wear. What's CODEO's assessment of this, and what you will recommend in the wake of this challenge emerging today?
Well, first of all, thank you, Evans. I think this is a a careful balance that we have to strike. We are looking at public safety or health safety, and then we are also looking at the right of the individual to take part in the legitimate activity or exercise. The individual himself or herself, I mean, we are all looking at our individual safety as well. But the thing I want to say is, could we look at alternatives? So if you're unable to afford a face mask, for instance, can you come with a face covering, your own homemade something that you can just use to essentially cover your nose or your mask, whether it's a handkerchief, a neat handkerchief that you can wash and clean before election day, and just to be able to cover your nose and your mouth. I think that is the essentially the purpose of the face mask. So some of these other alternatives are worth considering. I would have wished that this particular subject had come up earlier, but it's good that you're still raising it at this point in time. It's still not too late, just so we are all aware and we are all conscious of what we can do and we cannot do. But it's a very important subject that we have to look into. And I advise that every voter, to the best of your abilities, you go with a face mask, but also in the alternative, if you can go with any face covering that will help you comfortably cover your nose and your mouth, just so you protect yourself and you protect others.
Okay. Dr. Siribour, so there you have it. I think it's a conversation. We still have some few days to go as we try and fine-tune some of these things to see how we can help the most vulnerable in our society who may, for genuine reasons, lack the protective PPEs that we all, I guess some of us take for granted here in Accra. There are some other key issues that I need to raise with him, but of course, other issues too on your mind.
Well, so Dr. Siribour, this particular issue, for the purposes of education also, those whose names are supposed to be on the special list, the voters list today, but turned up at the various centers and their names was not on it. They are supposed to be voting today. They are part of security agencies, the media, in that category. But they went to the polling stations today and their names were not there. What happens to them? Do they still have the opportunity to cast their ballot?
The list came out about 3 weeks ago. So I would be surprised that anybody who qualifies there did not take the time to check on his or her name. Apart from putting the names on our website, all the institutions that are involved were given copies of the special voters list. So we were expecting that before today, anybody who qualifies should have been put on it or is aware that he was not put on it. I was at Utu Breku today, and I met one security person. He came that he was going to vote. He was fighting the people. I went and asked him whether he applied. He said that he registered at the district office, and they were told that they will vote automatically for a special voting. I said it's not done like that. If you go there to register, nobody will know that you are a security person or a media person. You need to apply. So all those who were not captured on the special voting, their names are still in the main register. So they're on the 7th of December, they will have to go to the main polling station to vote. Okay. On Friday, we met the top of the security services, and the instruction has gone down to the people that there are various regional and district officers who were not able to vote on the special voting day at the polling stations closer to where they registered, or at the polling station where they registered, so that they can exercise their franchise whilst voting. And the same thing applies to the media and everybody. If your name appeared on the special voting, you have been put on absent voting. So if you are not able to vote today, it means that you cannot exercise your franchise. Because on the day of voting, that is on the 7th December, your name will be on the special absent voters list. But if you are not put on the special voting, it means that your name remains in the main register. So you have to go to the polling station to vote on the 7th.
Okay. I'm sure that polls just closed just about an hour or so ago. But I don't know if it's early days yet to let us know in terms of the figures that turned out today on the list. We're expecting, 109,000 over that figure. Do we have an idea so far in terms of turnout?
You finish the election within 1 hour, the whole country automatically cannot get it.
Okay, but you're happy about turnout. You were mentioning that you've been to a number of centers.
All the that I visited, I went to Keyere Sector A. There were 411. I went there at 8 o'clock. That's 1 hour after voting, and they almost 100 people have voted, about 1/4 within 1 hour. I went to the other one, which was at 111. Then something had voted. And it moves at the same time. When I went to Kaswa around 3 o'clock, out of 632, 515 had voted. So that tells you that the turnout was very high.
Okay, I'm just working with a 24-hour timeline that you gave, so I'm hoping that we are working with some supersonic speed, particularly with this one. That's how come I was asking about that.
I mean, we still have Rhoda from the Kodeo on the line, but there's some quick notes I wanted to clarify with Dr. Kwaku on this. Dr. Kwaku, on the subject of what we can do collectively, EC, state, etc., for the most vulnerable with this face matter, a member of parliament had just sent a note that in the briefings that they got from the EC, EC had assured that part of the budget that was approved will be for the purchase of some face masks for those who may turn up at the polling stations who may not genuinely have one and cannot afford. Was that part of the plan?
I know it was done during the registration, but for the election, I'm not so sure, so I wouldn't want to comment on that.
Okay. Would you say it was done for the registration? I guess, wouldn't it be ideal to replicate it for the national elections as well?
That's something that I'm not sure of what is in the budget. I wouldn't want to see.
Comment.
I wouldn't want to deny or confirm when I'm not sure.
Okay. Stay with me. Rhoda, give me your Kodeo's preliminary assessment of today.
Yes, we've had pre-election observers across the country, about 65 constituencies. Many of them were able to observe the exercise today. So far, the information, the reports we've received from across the country indicate that it was a generally smooth, a good process. There weren't any significant issues with the performance of biometric verification devices in many places. Everybody was able to go through biometric verification, which is very important because you are looking at the efficiency of the machines. And we all know that one of the reasons why the Electoral Commission compiled a new register was the issue of the state of their equipment. And so it's good for us to know that the new equipment that have been procured have, at least for us at now, have lived up to some expectations or have lived up to expectations. There were few places where just a couple of people, 1 or 2 people had to go through facial recognition. And so all in all, that was a good process. Away from that, there were few issues about people not finding their names. And I think this is a recurrent issue that we continue to witness as far as early or special voting is concerned. I think the numbers this time around have gone down a bit if you look at the number of people who couldn't find their names on the special voting list. In many places, there weren't people like that, but at a few places, there were few people. In some places, there were about 17 people, other places about 5, 10 people. So those issues were still there. It's still not clear why we continue to have these issues. If you submitted your list for special voting, at some point in time, there should be good communication as to whether your list went through or not. And in any case, the Electoral Commission also provided there was an opportunity for people to verify if their names were not on the special voting list. So the question then is whether these people found their names at the time that the register was available on the EC's website, or probably they didn't even check at all. But these are issues that I think in future we can still continue to improve. But of course, we have to know really what the problem is about the compilation of the list. But all in all, it was a good process. Turnout was good. Before I asked about, I think she asked Dr. Kwaku about some percentages. From what we've heard from our observers, in many places, turnout was around 95, 94%, 90%. A few places too had around 80%. But overall, the response was quite encouraging. Okay,
I mean, so that is a preliminary assessment from Kodeo. I still have with me Dr. Serebour Kwaku, Director of Electoral Services at the Electoral Commission, Rhoda Osei, of course, with the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, joining us right now because we need to get a picture of some incidents that we understand, of course, unfolded in WA. My colleague, Rafiq Salam, joins us right now with the very latest on this. Rafiq, we are learning that there was a few cases of people, names appearing twice. Clarify that for us. Hello, Rafiq. I think you've possibly muted your Zoom. If you can unmute it, let's get this clarified so we could get some clarity on this going forward. If you can hear me.
Are you hearing me now?
I can, yes.
Okay. This was an issue that was spoken or that was alleged by the incumbent member of Parliament for Wa Central Constituency, Dr. Rashid Hassan Pelko. He spoke about some names on one of the registers here. You know, the Upper West region have 11 constituencies but have 12 centers. And so in these centers, 2 of the centers were in the Wa Central Constituency. So they allege that they have found some 2-3 names that were twice on the register. So it was an allegation that I pushed to the regional director of the Electoral Commission, Mr. Ali Osman Adamu. And he said that it has also come to their notice. The municipal director of the EC, Mr. Bernard, told him about it, and it's an issue that they will deal with before December 7th.
Okay, so the EC official there confirmed that indeed happened and they are looking into it?
Yes, they confirmed that, yes, there was some names that appeared twice on the register.
Okay, apart from that, I am assuming that everything else had gone according to plan? No other incidents reported?
There haven't been any incident reported in all the 12 centers in the Upper West region. Remember, the Upper West region, 3,459 persons were expected to cast their ballots between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. Let me narrow it to the Wa Central Constituency, 2 centers. So the centers, both of them, one is located just adjacent the regional police headquarters, and the other one also located at the back of the Circuit Court. And so at Circuit Court 1B, out of the 343 people out of the 433 persons who registered for the polls, we have only 380 people voting at 5 p.m. And so 99 of them were females, 281 were males. So in terms of attendance or turnout, it was 87.8%. That's how it panned out at Circuit Court 1B. And so by the other polling stations, Circuit Court 1A, out of the 334 people who registered for the polls, who registered the name for voting, 391 persons also voted at the close of polls. And so that's the situation in the Upper West region here. No incident to report on because it was a peaceful year. There was a lot of tranquility here. And then also, they were also observing the social distance and also the COVID-19 protocols. So it was easy going here, right in the Upper West region and to the very extent, the West Central constituency.
Rafiq, thank you very much. And I quickly want to bring in Dr. Kweku. Dr. Kweku, so is it possible, and as we've just heard my colleague there confirm that he checked with the EC official there when the complaints came, that we've found names appearing twice in 2 different stations. How could that happen? And there's a remedy for this. The electoral officer confirms to our reporter that they're looking into this to try and resolve it.
Your line was dropping, so can you come again?
Yes, I mean, our reporter there, Rafiq, in WA, of course, picked up there's a concern that was raised by the Member of Parliament that names appeared twice in 2 different locations, polling stations. It was raised with the electoral officer in charge, who confirmed it and said they're going to look into this. I mean, I wonder how this could have been possible with the systems that will, of course, be run if indeed it did happen.
I would have wanted to know whether it was the same polling station.
So it happened in what they had.
Sorry, some of them were split. Now, if the related voters were more than 10 it was split. So if it was the same bridge which came as a result of split, then maybe the splitting was not properly done. Instead of maybe you will split it into two, and the border names they skip over here and there. If that's the case, then it was a splitting error.
Okay.
So if it's in the middle, then that's a serious issue.
Okay.
So I will want to contact my person to appreciate what actually happened.
Okay. I mean, if today was a test for December 7, how will you score yourself?
For this election?
Yes.
I wouldn't want to mark, but you yourself should be able to mark. So this one is an A performance.
Oh, okay. But I thought you were going to put an asterisk at the end of the A.
I was going to say, where at school there was no A plus, else I would have said A plus.
Dr. Serebour Quaiku, thank you very much for your time.
My satisfaction is with respect to the performance of the BBC.
Okay.
As is the first time we are using, and also the cooperation that we got today from the political party.
Okay, good. I mean, talking about political parties, we'll talk to them shortly. But I'm grateful, sir. That is the EC's Director of Electoral Services giving us a reaction to some of the key issues. For me, the big takeaway is the EC is confirming the directive from the EC to the agents, to the EC reps on the ground, that no face mask, no access. I mean, you can actually boil it down to that.
That's what they said earlier, that no face mask, no vote, and that you will not be allowed within that perimeter at all, let alone get access to the ballot to vote.
We're going to take a break. This is your election headquarters. If you're just joining us, this is our special coverage of the special voting. It is special. It deserves special coverage, doesn't it? You only get it here on your election headquarters as we bring you the very latest wrapping up and getting you a sense of where we are with elections. How many days away now?
6 days.
6 days away.
Exactly 6 days.
And we've had a picture now, largely peaceful. Some issues arising. Arrests made in Kroa, for example. Two. We've heard from both the candidates there who are at the police station over this particular matter. In Ningo Pram, there have been threats of violence that we've seen today also. The police commander there had confirmed to us they are getting reinforcement because of these threats for election day. And the situation across the country has been one largely of peaceful nature. But we're also seeing cases of high voter turnout.
Of course, Cordeo ranks it. That is very impressive in terms of the turnout. And you've heard the EC also rating themselves, giving themselves an A. If there's A+, they say they will give themselves for that in terms of performance for today. But there's only 109,000 voters that were expected to vote today. Let's see, as compared to the D-Day in 6 days. This is your election headquarters, brought to you by Petrosol, clean fuel, full quantity, and of course, Cowbell Coffee. We'll take a quick break here. When we return, we'll take your comments as well via WhatsApp is 055-1111-997. Send them in. Also, if you're watching us live on Facebook, you can leave those comments there. We're right back after this. Do stay with us.
And this is your election headquarters. We've been all over the country for you since 5 p.m. when polls closed on the back of the special voting that happened today. 109,000 people queued to vote thereabout. We have seen from what Cordeo has confirmed to us tonight that it was a high voter turnout in the regions of 80 and 90% plus. Of course, we've heard a few incidents that still need resolving. We've had a confirmation from the EC that today there was a firm instruction. If you don't have a face mask, you're not going to be allowed to cast your ballot until you brought one. It's actually now being flagged by, of course, some watchers in Parliament that the EC was given a budget to address this. The Director of Elections says that's not something he can speak to now, but we need to get clarity on that because, of course, if this is a test for December 7 and special voters came to polling stations without face mask, you can't imagine what will happen for the most vulnerable in society on election day who genuinely can't afford us all. So this is one of the things that clearly this has thrown up that still needs resolving. definitely. The thing about this and your election quarters is that you've been sending your views as we brought you that very comprehensive round the country wrap on today's special voting. And MFA, you have a lot of messages.
A lot of comments. I've been trying to sort some of them out. We'll hear from the political parties, their own take on this. But let me quickly bring in some of your messages that you've sent in via WhatsApp. So this one from AU Farouk in Tamale says, in fact, the special voting today is a test of victory for NDC come 7th December. All indication on the faces of the security mentioned shows a victory for the NDC. We have another one who says, please, I mean the special voters who couldn't vote today, as we learn to be posted near their polling station, and this, I say, can make them to be biased in their dealings, he says. Martin Luther in Laboni says, indeed, when you have a competent leader, it reflects everything. The new EC's chairperson has brought efficiency to our electoral system, and this confirms her optimism to declare the results within 24 hours. One also says, we thank God the special voting went successfully. We are waiting for December 7 for the general election. Please, peace is what we need. Eric Kwao in Aplau joining our peace campaign here at Joy News. Okay, let's bring in the political parties' main stakeholders, key stakeholders in this process. Evans Nemako is the Director of Elections for the governing New Patriotic Party. Joins us on the telephone line right now. I know you had agents in all the polling stations today. What report have they filed? Hello, Mr. Nemako. I think your Zoom may be on mute. If you can unmute it for me so we could hear you. I think it's frozen also. We'll try and get that rectified very shortly. Is Mr. Nemako back on? Mr. Nemako, if you can hear me, you can give us the MPP's assessment of this report that you've received from your own agents on the ground today. Hello? Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, good evening, and I hope you are doing well.
We're doing fine. How about you?
Yeah. By His grace, I'm better than good. Yeah. What I would say to start with is that the New Patriotic Party put together our agents, our leadership were on the field. We deployed party constituency executives. We were represented by our candidates in all the 311 voting centers in all the 275 constituencies. In all, about 109,577 people were supposed to vote. That constitutes about 0.64% of the 70 million. By and large, report coming through has been that it's been mainly successful. Agents were more of collaborating to ensure that we have a successful elections.
We may have lost that audio there. We have Maxwell Kudako on the line with us.
Of course, in the Eastern region, this issue about some personnel not finding their names on the register, which has been addressed by Dr. Sribo Kweku, also came up strongly in that region. Maxwell Kudako is our man on the ground. He's been monitoring the situation and joins us via Zoom. Maxwell, what's the situation? Polls have closed, and I'm sure you've been interacting with residents and, of course, party agents. What's been their reaction to what they saw today? You would have to unmute yourself, Maxwell.
Okay, we don't hear Maxwell. We'll get Maxwell to rectify his audio so we can hear him. Wherever you are tonight, if you are one of those who was in the queue, another thing that came up today, by the way,
long queue,
is the people taking photos of their ballots. It's on the back of that, 2 people have been arrested. And that's another thing that we've seen. In fact, social media, I've seen people whose ballots
that you can't
circulating.
You could get in trouble for that. Let's try again if Maxwell Kudako has joined us back via Zoom. Maxwell, I'm sure you've unmuted yourself now. Bring us up to speed on the situation in the areas that you visited today and how it's been.
Very clear. We have taught a number of the 33 constituencies in the Eastern region. Just as we indicated in the morning, the Eastern region had over 7,000 expected votes across the region. The New Biabin South constituency had the largest number of early voters. comprising of personnel from the security agencies, the media, and DC officials. The number summed up to 837 in the New Durban South constituency. But at the end of the poll, 692 voters were able to turn out in the exercise. So about 145 people who submitted their names for early voting did not turn out here in the New Durban South constituency. So we had 82% voter turnout in the New Durban South constituency. It is almost same in almost all the 33 constituencies in the Eastern region. The turnout has been between 80, 82, thereabout. So that's the issue on turnout. However, the district or municipal director of the Electoral Commission in the New Durban South, Mr. Kofi Wusu, in an interaction expressed a worry about the few who couldn't turn up at the polls. The reason being that these people who submitted their names for the early voting may not have the opportunity to vote on December 7th. So it means that they do not stand the chance of getting the opportunity to vote. Now, social distancing was a very key issue in the morning, especially at the Galloway polling station. Even though the EC officials provided Veronica buckets with running water and what have you, at the early stage, it was very difficult controlling the people who rushed in to cast their ballots between 6 and 7. If the Electoral Commission marked the grounds with white marker, showing the distance each voter should stand from the other. But it got to a time the people were in a rush to cast their ballot and vote. However, the EC officials enforced the social distance rule and ensured that anybody who came to the polling center adhere to the distance. It is worthy to note that we did not find any security or official manning the polls, especially at the Galloway polling center where the New Durban South election took place. So I asked the EC official, and he told me that they were expecting a security or police officer at post, but at the end of post, we didn't see any security official. The argument has been that that place is a security zone, so people did not expect to come and then misbehave there. So the absence of the security official didn't cause any disturbances. By and large, it's been very peaceful. Many who did not found their name on the voter list, some had traveled from Kumasi, some had traveled from Afram Plains and other areas to come and vote, but they were disappointed not to have found their names on the early voting list. But the assurance has been that they are going to work out things in order to ensure that they exercise their franchise very early in the morning before they are sent to their various duty posts. So it has been very peaceful in the Eastern region.
Well, thank you very much. That's my colleague Maxwell Kudako from the Eastern region giving us a summary of events today from the Electoral Commissioner, from the security, and of course, turnout. You've been interacting with Evans Nimako, the Director of Elections of the NPP. For him, it's been largely successful until we lost him along the line. We'll try and raise him back on the line via Zoom. Then we can continue that conversation with him. We've been bringing you extensive coverage of today's special voting. It's special, so it deserves special attention here at your election headquarters. Also live on Joy 99.7 FM, here on the Joy News channel, DSTV channel 421, GoTV 144, myjoyonline.com. And this is our coverage of that special voting exercise. I am MF Apo. I'm here with Evans Mensah, and he'll be speaking to Evans Nimako.
Yeah, my name's Sheikh. I'm in the political party, but there's a lot of more statements that we're getting from our listeners who are joining us on this special coverage of the special voting. Abdulaziz Mindo Katachi in Tamale says, good evening, Evans and MFA. So far, so good. The EC has done well and deserves commendation. I absolutely believe that come December 7, we will have a smooth election. A great work from the EC, but Melvin in Ho disagrees. Says the EC should stop praising itself for organizing its special voting peacefully. Rather, they should know that the election was for the service persons and the media personnel who are disciplining themselves to have caused trouble. They should rather wait for the general public to vote before they self-score themselves. And they self-score themselves A's. And the EC has told us that they obviously giving themselves A. If there's a plus, who would add a plus.
Would have added a plus, and that would have been the musician, though. But there's another one also of our WhatsApp, and it says, I really commend the EC chair. Keep it up. I'm optimistic that NDC will ultimately appear victorious in the D-Day. That's from Albert Wabenga in Kumasi, sending us that one. We've been to Kumasi earlier. And there's another one, I'm sure we'll get through, rather long one. I'll have to really sort out. It says, why must we allow manual verification when the BVD can do both fingerprint and facial verification? And this is a conversation that we've had. Dr. Kwadwo Yilaj in Kintampo has been sending that one in. But talk of issues about the election headquarters, Evans, today, there've been a lot of talk about this issue about tertiary, free tertiary education, giving those SHS, free SHS graduates getting into the tertiary education, getting free education. They'll be paid. And the Scholarship Secretariat today announced ahead, after the NDC had also issued a statement earlier today. So the Scholarship Secretariat insists that theirs came out before the NDC. You know, in the NDC's People's Manifesto, they had mentioned that we're going to give 50%, which will be the chimpe for the tertiary students. But now they said, Ninyina, Faninyina, that's what it is now. After the Scholarship Secretariat also announced that this is what you're going to do for the fresh Kufuor graduates, I should say. That's what they've been called. But this came up earlier today. I'm sure we're bringing you that and more on the Joy News Prime. But we'll see if we can get Evans Dimako joining us back on the line.
No,
Okay.
I mean, guys, I've just been watching the. This must be the Scholarship Secretariat.
Secretariat, of course.
Speaking to this key issue about the scholarships and government decision to absorb all 100% fees for the graduates now leaving the free SHS. Let's listen in.
The free SHS now have an opportunity to apply for scholarship for their tuition fees at the tertiary level to be paid for them. When? Yes. An amount of 20 million Ghana cedis has been set aside. Of course, you know that because their tuition fees will vary, both in the private tertiary institutions, public tertiary institutions, their courses and programs also vary. So 20 million Ghana cedis being set aside, trust me, can take care of a lot, thousands of these graduates.
How sustainable will this funding for free tertiary education be? Looking at so much money already going into free senior high school.
Immediately, His Excellency assumed office in 2017. 350 students in the local tertiary were given scholarship. 2018, we had 9,500 of them enjoying local scholarship. In 2019, a whopping 29,000 local tertiary students had scholarship. This year, for the continuous students, 45,000 of them are going to enjoy scholarship, of which out of the 45, 11,000 or so have been paid already. For the first batch of these free SHS, 20 million has been set aside for them. So in terms of sustainability, it's something that has been progressive all these years. The only thing that can militate against the sustainability of this local scholarship drive is when the MPP is not retained. Because
so, talking about feasibility, beneficiaries are Ghanaians, essentially students of Ghana. Whether you're in government or not, why don't you ensure that there's continuity even if your government is not in power?
I mean, it's at the prerogative of a government to ensure that the education of its citizenry becomes a must. Don't forget that when President Mahama was a president during the dark days of Ghana, he said that for him to restore teacher and nursing training allowance, if it will cost him his presidency, he was ready to sacrifice it. The then flag bearer of the MPP, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, said he will implement free SHS if that will cost him his life. So these two gentlemen all took the oath. Okay, which of them has materialized? Former President Mahama said he will cancel free SHS. Hasn't he said it? I read a lot of their statements that they made. Is this somebody that can be trusted? We can't. The youth of this country cannot trust our education and, for that matter, our future into the hands of a person who is not straight, into the hands of a person who is not very stable.
So clearly, this matter, MFR, of the free SHS and how it's playing out in elections now is getting into the tertiary realm now, but some clarity is important. So this, we understand from this Scholarship Secretariat, is a scholarship application like all others. It's 20 million has been allocated. And the clarity is that it is not as if it's a free tertiary education for all, okay? So it is scholarship for those who apply and qualify. And there's 20 million fund available for those who want to apply to get it. So it's not free tertiary education that I was hoping for.
That it will be.
You know, but the NDC has something.
Okay, of course. We've been speaking to the campaign coordinator, Joshua Alabi, on that following their announcement that theirs is funding. Let's get more clarity on their policy.
What we will need is also to absorb 100%. Initially, in our manifesto, we said 60% for all. But we just finished our rounds and around every region. And actually, you'll see the impact of COVID on the people. And that alone will let you know that they need help. Now, freshers have a lot to do. They have to pay freshers fees, accommodation, etc., etc. So, as a former vice chancellor, I know the burden of freshers when they are admitted. So, having gone round and having listened to the people, and like you know, our manifesto is the people's manifesto, not a consultation. So we decided to listen to the people, and we said, okay, now the freshers will give them 100%. We're going to absorb that, but the continuing students also have effect. So ours is not limited to only the freshers. Okay. Then the continuing students will have 50%.
But some have described this as an afterthought because the time that the People's Manifesto was being put together, of course, or being launched, the COVID-19 impact was also with us. So many say that this is just a last-minute scam to, lie to the electorate to vote for you.
We don't lie to the electorate. NDC does not lie to the electorate. Now, like I said, initially we said 50%, and that was not a scam. Now we are saying 100% because we've gone around. Look, you need to go around as a journalist and we see the impact of the COVID. I've been to Bukuku, I've been to UU, I've gone around the whole country, and I tell my sister it's not easy. So we said, then let's move the 50% to 100% for the freshers.
Well, the battle of the free SHS and now the free tertiary. But for some clarity, the NDC's policy is also for the first year of tertiary.
But he talks about the continuing students as well. That's the clarity he also gave, that earlier they had mentioned that it's just for the first year, but they have a policy also for the continuing students as well.
I see. So the government one is a scholarship that...
For the first year.
Only first year or
first
for
year,
all
for
tertiary?
Just the first year. The fresh
Who
graduates.
can apply.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I'm sure we'll wrap up at this point, but let's head to the central region and interact with my colleague Richard Kojo Nyako. He's joining us from the central region. Richard Kojo Nyako, briefly bring us up to speed on the situation in the central region, then we can wrap
because
up.
He's been talking
well, everything went on smoothly across all the centers I visited. I went to the KEA. I was in Infantiman constituency. I went to the Abrasibu Kwamankesi, Cape Coast North and Cape Coast South. But at the end of everything, things went out. The COVID-19 protocols were strictly adhered to. There were markings on the ground very early in the morning, and so people stuck to these markings that were on the ground. Apart from that, to anyone that came without a nose mask, there were some people that were selling some nose masks around, and so they were admitted into the queue. So far, it's been very good. The General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party, John Boadu, after the post, expressed some satisfaction about how things have really turned out. He said that, well, they supported the EC in its drive to overhaul the system and they've been vindicated. They are expecting that there would be massive improvements come December 7. And so they were not really impressed with the turnout because in the Cape Coast South constituency, out of the 430 people that were expected to cast their ballot, about 50 people did not turn out. Same applies to the Cape Coast North constituency, in the Himalaya, the Intra constituency as well. And so they say that they are going to embark on some education and sensitization so that on December 7th, a lot of people will troop to the voting centers to cast their ballot for the New Patriotic Party candidate to retain the president in power. And so that is what really has been happening. But I've been speaking with the party agent as well, and they have been expressing some satisfaction about everything that went on, with the exception of a few issues that happened, that the regional police commander indicated that.
Well, yeah, I mean, Coach John, these are things that we're going to take up on the Prime very shortly here on your election headquarters. Prime is up next. This is a continuation of our special coverage. This has been obviously your election headquarters giving you all you need to know about the special voting that ended 2 hours ago. And for our radio audience, Strong and Sassy is coming up on Joy 99.7 FM with Nimwa Nimado. Interestingly, she'll be speaking to Francesca Siem and Joyce Bawa Mukhtari. For our TV audience, Israel Lai is up next with the Joy News Prime. Much later on PM Express, we'll continue and give you more from the special voting and more. I am MFR Paul. Thanks so much for your company. And I'm Evan Spencer. Join me at 9 p.m. with PM Express.